So I watched Flower of Evil, and here is what I thought. I don't know if you watched my recommendation video that I did previously, but I recently did like a crime slash serial killer recommendation video. And in that video, I mentioned this show and a few others as well. If you haven't heard of the show, it's about one of our main characters who is a police officer slash detective, and she is married to a man who has a few deaths connected to his name. So present day, something happens to reopen his case, and his wife is assigned to it. And he tries to stay a step ahead of her so that she doesn't learn this secret that he has. He's been having the secret that he has some bodies, some deaths connected to his name. She has no idea when she met him, when she married him, who he really is. And when his case is reopened, he's like, I need to keep the truth from her. So that is like the general, very, very basic general synopsis of this show. So now we'll be getting into spoiler territory. I'll be going deep within the episodes, kind of giving a step-by-step what happened. So if you have not seen it, maybe you want to step away, watch it, then come back and let me know what you think. If you honestly don't care about spoilers, or if you have seen already, let's continue. Let's discuss what really went down in the show Flower of Evil. So why did I watch this? I was wanting a bit of a darker romance. It turned out not to be as dark as I thought it would be, but I definitely still enjoyed it. I liked how it was kind of like had romance in it, but it was kind of like serial killer, murder mystery, all the things. So like not your typical romance, just a little dashes of other things, which, you know, it's good to have something a little different. I enjoyed it. So in the beginning, we learn our main character, who is the one with all the deaths connected to his name, has a wife and a daughter. They have a daughter together, and they seem like to have a normal family life. But soon we realize that this family has some secrets. So near the beginning of the show, we meet his parents. It's his birthday, some dinner type of celebration, and his wife wants the family to be together. So when they're at the birthday dinner, you can tell like the mother-in-law doesn't really like the wife. So when the wife leaves the room, we learn a few more things from this family. One thing that we find out is that he is not their real son. They had a son and made a deal with this dude that he pretend to be their son. We learn that their real son is currently in a coma, and he is in like a room in their house where he's like being monitored and taken care of, but he's like in a coma, not moving anything. He's just laying there. But how he ended in a coma is how he ended up with the coma was because of his mother. So this family doesn't want that to get out. So they are kind of helping each other. They're protecting his identity, and he's kind of protecting their secret. So they're kind of have each other's secrets. But these parents are worried about his wife. She is a part of the police department, so that is not something they kind of want close to their family, because if she knows too much, she could be a problem for them. So the case about his family happens to get reopened because of a recent murder. And the reason is because this murder has similar things that happened in this serial killer murder case. The Yeonju City serial murders. Please forgive my mispronunciation. I'm trying to remember how everything is pronounced from the show. So there is a reporter who has done a lot of research on this, and he also kind of has a connection to the son of the murderer. So he knew the son when he was younger, which also happens to be this detective's husband. They went to the same school, and they kind of know each other from back in the day. I'm not saying they were friends or anything, but they went to the same school. So this reporter ends up going to the detective's husband's shop. She recommends it to him because he does like work with metal, and you know, just mentioning her husband's shop to a colleague or friend that she comes in contact with a lot. So when he is there, he recognizes her husband, and he tries to leave, but the husband ends up capturing him and locking him in the basement. And he does keep him in there for a while, and eventually lets him go and threatens to blackmail him with something he has in his apartment if he tells anyone the truth about him. So people begin to notice that they really haven't heard from this reporter in a while. And kind of while they are looking for him, they see that he was supposed to meet with someone about this serial murder case. And the person he was supposed to meet with ends up getting murdered. From the cameras, all we know that it was a guy in a black hooded raincoat. And the person was also killed in the same way that the previous victims were killed in the serial murder cases in the past. So, the wife knows about this and, because she's on the case. And guess who comes in walking with a black hooded raincoat the same night this dude died? Her husband. And I was like, dude, oh my goodness, I couldn't. I was like, ugh. I was like, he did it. He done did it. Because, it's basically these murders are connected to him. So this recent killing is all over the news. And the suspect they have is the son of the serial killer. So this older woman kind of recognizes the suspect and has like a more recent picture of him. So they're going to go see the woman. The reporter, since he's kind of getting blackmailed and he realizes that this dude from his childhood is not the real killer, they go to find the old woman to kind of get the picture so she doesn't show anyone else. So when they're going to go talk to her, the reporter finds that she's kind of tied up. And the kind of like imposter serial killer, but the actual real killer in this most recent murder is in the black hooded jacket and he's there. So he runs, and then the husband sees him and is about to run after him, and then his wife, the detective, gets there, doesn't see him, just sees the back of him and sees he's in that like black hooded raincoat, and she's like, stop, and she starts chasing him, and he runs away because he doesn't want his wife to know that he was there where this older woman was with the picture. Like, he's not supposed to know everything that's going on. So they like chase each other. They end up coming to like a warehouse or like a shed, and she's not really able to see the person she's chasing. He ends up getting away, and she's not able to catch the person who ends up being her husband. So kind of after this interaction, I feel like things after this start to unravel rather quickly, and a lot of things start coming to light. So this person was not part of the actual serial killer cases in the past. This is a copycat killer, and it turns out to be a cab driver, and his wife was a victim of the previous serial killer, but her body was never found. And so this detective's husband, he believes it's him, so he kind of like ties him up in like this abandoned pool and starts filling it with water and demands to know where his wife is, because he believes that he is the accomplice. Her husband doesn't know anything. He's like, I don't know where your wife is. And he almost dies in the process, but thankfully the police and his wife get there just in time to save him. So his wife begins to find out the truth about her husband and who he really is. And how that happened is because of a watch. At first she finds like a watch in that warehouse where she chased him to, and it's the watch she gave him, and the reason she knew that is because it is engraved. And so she knew he was there. And shortly after she finds out, one of her coworkers finds out who her husband is. And so they're very suspicious of him, and they're trying to figure out if he is the killer, because currently everything is pointing to him. So let me backtrack a bit. Something I didn't really mention is that, so his father was the actual serial killer from the past. Close to his father's death, they realized that his father had an accomplice, and a lot of people believe that his son, which is currently her husband, the detective's husband, believes that he was the accomplice for his father. There's a couple of reasons why people believe this, because the son was his alibi for a night in question when someone did disappear, and they had similar things happen to them, the other victims of the serial killer. So a lot of people think that the son was just protecting him and was his accomplice. And another thing is because he doesn't really show emotion like everyone else. He just doesn't know how to, and he has to like practice. There's like a clip in the TV show, he has to practice how to smile, how to be happy and things like that, because it doesn't come naturally to him. And because he is different, people just assume, oh, he's like his father, so he must be the accomplice and a killer. So a lot of things are pointing to him, and a lot of people are just assuming he's the accomplice because he's different. Another reason why people think he's a killer, because he did say that he killed someone in their village. I believe it was a stabbing. So he did admit to killing this person. But it turns out he never killed that guy in the village. It was actually his sister. Yes, this dude has a sister. So this older man in their village when they were growing up was making advances to his sister and trying to force himself on her. And she was protecting herself and defending herself and ended up killing the man. And then when her brother found the blood on his sister and knew what had happened, and so he decided to protect her and take the blame on himself. So now people know that the father had an accomplice, and they're beginning to realize it wasn't really the son, but they're trying to figure out who is it actually. So his sister has a keychain that the killer actually gave her the day of their father's funeral. And the reason they know that the killer gave it to her is because the reason that that cab driver wanted to tie up the dude was because he had this fish keychain that only him and his wife had. So they know that the killer was the person that gave it to her. So she tries to remember who was the person that gave her that keychain. And then her brother tries to figure out and retrace his steps the day that he was his father's alibi, see if he can remember anything or remember the person. Maybe he came in contact with the person who was his accomplice without him even knowing. So they're all trying to work out and figure out who is this person that was the accomplice to their father and was also a part of these serial murders. Something else that's beginning to happen around this time. The son, who was in a coma for the parents that he kind of took the identity of, begins to wake up. And when he wakes up, he learns that there's someone else living as him. And the parents are kind of scared of this adoptive son because they know he has a murder attached to his name and a lot of bodies attached to his name. Well, they don't need to be scared of the dude that is pretending to be their son. They need to be afraid of their actual son. Because plot twist that I did not see coming at all, y'all. Their son is the accomplice. Their son is the actual serial killer. He helped this dude's dad kill and find people. And now that this dude's back, he's going on a killing spree. He wants to get rid of everyone who could threaten his freedom. And who is kind of affecting that is this dude's wife. So he's on his way to kill Do Hyun Soo's wife, but he doesn't really know what she looks like. And he ends up finding his sister instead, thinking that his sister is the wife, and ends up attacking her. What also happens is that one victim who was the cab driver's wife that was like missing and they never found her body, turns out she's been in an institution this entire time, and she's kind of like not fully there in her mind. I don't know what they did to this woman. When they get her out of there, the crazy son plans on killing her. Do Hyun Soo sets a trap for him. And I was like, yes. So we're getting near the end of the season, y'all. So they set a trap because he didn't really finish killing this woman. So he knows like he wants to go kind of finish a job. So he sets a trap, and then they start confronting each other. They're like running in the woods and they're chasing each other because they're trying to get justice, trying to get this serial killer dude like out of his life. So finally the police come just in time. His wife is there, convinces him not to kill this dude. He's like, no, don't do it. He's like, come to me. She's like, come to me, like you're safe, like we got him, like this is over. Then the serial killer dude grabs a gun and aims it at the wife, and her husband jumps in front of her and gets shot. Oh my goodness. You want a drama? There is drama. So we fast forward a little bit. Turns out her husband ended up surviving, but he has like amnesia. So he doesn't remember his wife or his daughter. He kind of remembers up until right before he met her. And because he doesn't really remember her and he doesn't really remember loving her, he wants to get a divorce. This is the one part of the show I hated, was that when he got amnesia, I was like, no, do not give him amnesia. He needs to remember his family now. Like, even though they gave that to him, it did end up having a good ending. So like I mentioned before, like when he was younger, and like, you know, still he doesn't show emotion like a normal person. Like, it just doesn't come naturally, so he has to practice it and like intentionally show like the correct emotion. And before he never thought he could be loved because of who he was. And so all those years with his wife and with his daughter, he doesn't remember that love he experienced and like how he actually feels towards them. He just thought he could never be loved and never feel love. So I do like the last couple scenes of the show is when he finally like meets his daughter and he's worried if she will like him, and the wife's like, she loves you, you're her favorite person. And then the daughter sees him and is so happy and like jumps into his arms, and they're just in one big family hug. That was one of my favorite absolute moments of the show, and it was such a beautiful moment. Just like to see him in his like past mental state, realizing like, okay, I can be loved and I can love. I'm not just like this person that will never have a family or be loved. Like, there are people that love him. So I'm happy to see that his future, he can like find that way back to where he was, of having a loving family around him. Okay, so that was Flower of Evil. I know that was kind of like, I don't know how long that recap was, but definitely wasn't as long as I thought it would be. But a lot of things happened. I really enjoyed this show. And of course, it wasn't really like a serial killer romance because he's not technically a serial killer. He never killed anyone. But I liked, so originally I thought it would go into that. And I was like, ooh, how does this work? I'm intrigued. But I do like how the show ended up. There is a romance and there's this drama surrounding this family where there are deaths and murders. And there are serial killers in the show. It's just she doesn't fall in love with the serial killer. But she is willing to stick by him and try to figure out like what's really happening. She does love him. She does feel conflict within the show because she's like, I love this man, but he has all this connected to him. Like, what's the truth? What isn't? Really good. Really, really good. I loved it. So if you couldn't tell already, my rating for this show is 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. Even though I went in thinking it would go a different way, I left loving it still. It was just so good. It was definitely what I needed. I kind of wanted a break from romance, but it gave me just enough of something else with a dash of romance in it that I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And y'all, the plot twist that came at the end, I honestly didn't see that coming. I did not expect the son to be the accomplice, to be a killer. Like, I did not see that. I was wondering why the mom put him in a coma, but she was like, my son is dangerous. He needs to, and she's just like, this man needs to not be in this world right now. And he ended up in a coma. But yeah, that I did not see coming. Maybe if you've seen it, you saw it coming, but I did not. I figured the son would wake up throughout the show, but I didn't think he would play the part that he did. But it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So if you're like into like murder mystery, kind of like crime, definitely maybe you want to check the show out. It does have a little bit of romance in it. It is kind of like this chaotic time, kind of centered around these two people. It is not only about romance, but it does have romance in it, and it kind of is centered around this couple and kind of like how do they deal with the situation that has just happened to them. But I highly suggest it. Maybe it's something you can watch during a fall or spooky season. It might be one you want to give a watch. But yeah, that is Flower of Evil. If you have seen it, definitely let me know what you think. If you're interested in any spooky, some crime TV shows, definitely check out my recommendation video. But yeah, I had a great time watching this show. I hope you will too if you haven't already checked it out. Feel free to check out my website. Feel free to check me out on any of my social media. It's the same on all platforms. And I will also link them below in the description box if you want to go check those out. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you have any other like murder mystery / like romance in a show, like it doesn't have to be serial killer romance, but like any like murder mystery with a romance twist or in it, definitely let me know any suggestions. I would definitely like to check out more. I think was like a good mix to add into the TV shows I was watching, something different I never really checked out before. So I hope you have a good rest of your day, week, month, and hopefully a good rest of your year. And until next time, bye.